There's an old clock in my room. Ticks all day long. Tick, tock. Every tick is another second gone. Every tock pulls up another memory I thought I'd buried. I've loved 4 women in my life. 4. That's enough to fill a lifetime of loneliness, if I had let it. But I never touched them the way a man touches a woman he loves. No, I'm not impotent. I'm not sick. I just can't. Have you ever seen a man tremble just from a woman's gaze? Not because she's beautiful, not because he's in love, but because he's terrified. People call me a veteran. Vietnam War. I got sent over when I was 1969. Back then, I was full of ideals. I believed in doing good. I believed in America. I believed we were helping. I never imagined that what I'd bring home would be a hunger burning in my chest. A hunger that never goes away. Because to touch someone now feels like a crime. Some men lost arms and legs in the war. Some lost their minds, their memories. I came back whole on the outside. Not a scratch, but I was far from whole. I lost the ability to trust love. To believe that I could be close to someone without hurting them. Every time a woman hugged me, my body would tense up like it was bracing for a firefight. Not because I wanted her, but because I was afraid. I told this to an old buddy once, another vet. He sat there quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You're not the only one." We just sat in silence. 2 men who had died inside, waiting for the rest of their bodies to catch up. War doesn't end when the guns go silent. It lives inside us. It stalks us in our sleep. It curls up in every heartbeat when a soft hand touches your shoulder. I'm not telling this for sympathy. I'm not asking to be forgiven. I just need to say it. Because for years I thought I was a coward. A man who stood by when he should have done something. A man who watched things happen and turned away. They call it moral injury. A wound that doesn't bleed, doesn't need stitches, but leaves you feeling dirty forever. I touched hell once and I survived. I thought that made me strong. Until the day I tried to kiss a woman and almost threw up. Some nights I see the face of a small Vietnamese girl in my dreams. I never knew her name. I just remember her eyes. Eyes that asked, "Why didn't you stop them?" I have no answer. I'm not even sure I wanted one. Not until now. Because if I don't speak, maybe no one will. And I don't want the things I saw, the things I heard, the things I felt, to die with me when I close my eyes for good. I didn't just walk away from Vietnam with my body intact. I left with a soul that never came back. There are things I can talk about, and things I can't. Not because I forgot, but because I don't want anyone else carrying the same weight I do. Still, if I do not say it out loud, I might lose what's left of my mind keeping it buried. So I will tell it. Not all of it, but the part that hurts the most. It was a humid evening somewhere in southern Quang Nai. We were ordered to sweep a village suspected of harboring Viet Cong. When we got there, the place was already empty. No laughter, no barking dogs, no cooking fires. Only traces of what had been life. A pair of worn-out sandals, a half-finished bowl of rice, and a little doll lying on its back in the dirt. A small squad was sent to clear out the last hut by the edge of the woods. Inside they found a few civilians hiding. 3 old men, a small child, and 2 young women. I remember their eyes when they were dragged out into the open. Wide, terrified, frozen. But not crying. Not screaming. Just trembling. Like dry leaves before they break free from the tree. We brought them back to the camp. That was protocol. Interrogate, process, hand them over to the ARVN or whoever was in charge of local custody. At least that's what the paperwork said. I wasn't part of the interrogations. I worked supply runs, logistics, routine patrols. I thought I'd never have to see the ugly side of things. I was wrong. That night I was cleaning my rifle. The air was thick. Mosquitoes buzzing in my ears. It was just another quiet jungle night. Then I heard something behind one of the tents. A sound I didn't recognize right away. Not shouting. Not gunfire. Just wrong. I walked over to check. One of the guys, Mike, was pulling one of the young women into the shadows between two tarp walls. She resisted weakly, like someone who already knew resistance meant nothing. He covered her mouth, pinned her down. Then, I heard fabric tearing, muffled sobs, the kind of sound no human should ever have to make. And I stood there. I heard it. I knew exactly what was happening, but I didn't do anything. I turned away. I went back to my spot, rifle in hand, hands shaking. No one said anything. No one brought it up in the morning. And the girl, she didn't speak. She just sat in the corner staring at nothing, still breathing but hollowed out. It wasn't the last time. Not by a long shot. There's something twisted about repetition. Even horror starts to feel normal after a while. Every sweep after that, there were always a few women held back. No explanation. No reports. Just kept aside. Dragged behind the tents. Silence and shadows. The same guys I joked with the week before, shared smokes with, sang songs with, now looked like strangers once the sun went down. I stopped looking at them. And worse, I stopped looking at myself in the mirror. One night I heard a gunshot. Just one. Clang. We rushed out. One of the women who'd been detained the night before had grabbed a carelessly placed M16 and shot herself in the chest. Blood sprayed across the walls and across the back of the man who'd just finished with her. I'll never forget his face. He just stared at her body and laughed. This wild, hollow, broken laugh. No one hit him. No one screamed. And I collapsed. Right there on the ground. That night, I vomited until I had nothing left. Not because of the blood, but because I knew something inside me had died for good. I didn't kill anyone that day. I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't touch her. But I killed my own conscience by doing nothing. Every time I stayed silent, it was another wound to whatever humanity I had left. I started to hate myself. I stopped writing home. Stopped laughing. Stopped singing before bed. I became quiet. And in that quiet, I began to realize. I began to understand how a man becomes a monster and never even needs to be trained. All it takes is for him to see it once, and then again, and again, with no one to stop it, and everyone looking away. They say war makes heroes. I think war makes survivors. Survivors of their own cowardice, of their own silence. That's who I was, and I'm still alive. I don't remember exactly which night it was. I don't know what day followed it. In war, no one keeps track of calendars. What I do remember is this. After that gunshot, I stopped sleeping. Or more honestly, I stopped letting myself sleep. Because every time I closed my eyes, it all came rushing back. Vivid, raw. Like it had just happened yesterday. By day, I still looked like a soldier. I did my duty, walked my patrols, ate my rations. I smiled when someone cracked a joke. I scribbled in a notebook here and there. But at night, I became someone else. Every single night, without fail, I heard them. The women, their cries, muffled screams, broken pleas for help that never came. I couldn't sleep anymore. I wouldn't. Even when my body was falling apart from exhaustion, my mind stayed wide awake, replaying every moment, every sound, the zipper being pulled up, the flick of a lighter, that dry, disgusting laugh after it was all done. The more I tried to forget, the sharper the memories cut back. I thought I was losing my mind. Then came the dreams. Wet dreams. But not the kind boys laugh about in bunkers. Not dreams of someone I loved. Not dreams of warmth or desire. These were different. These were filth. I'd see myself in the tent. A woman beneath me. She didn't scream, but her eyes were full of tears. I was touching her, and instead of feeling aroused, I saw blood. Blood on my hands. Blood on her thighs. Sobbing in my ears. And still, in the dream, I kept going. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, sticky with shame, and I'd feel such revulsion toward myself. I'd have gladly cut off every part of my body that had responded. I began to fear my own body, fear what it wanted, fear arousal, fear any sense of desire. Because I no longer trusted it. It responded to the wrong things, and my mind screamed for it to stop. I told no one. Who would understand? They'd think I was weak, or worse, they'd think I was just like the others. But I wasn't like them. I never did what they did. I just didn't stop it, and somehow that felt worse. I tried everything. No coffee, no heavy food at night. I listened to soft country songs before bed. Nothing worked, because sleep wasn't the enemy. Memory was. Every time I drifted off, I saw them again. Not their names, not their faces, just those trembling hands, those soaked eyes, that silence after. I requested to be transferred. Out of combat duty. I asked for logistics, ammunition storage, supply delivery, anything. I made up reasons: back pain, fatigue, field stress. They didn't ask questions. They just reassigned me. As long as there was someone to take my place out there, no one cared what my real reasons were. I disappeared into the background, tucked away in a quiet post. No one asked my name. No one checked in, and I preferred it that way. I started avoiding everyone. No talking, no joking, no late-night laughs or shared stories over cigarettes. Once, I overheard a group of guys laughing about a girl screaming like a banshee during their last sweep. They thought it was hilarious. I clenched my fists so hard I broke the skin in my palms. I didn't say anything. I just stood up and walked away. I didn't belong there anymore. Maybe I never did. After that, I wasn't really there at all. Just a body, going through motions. Wait, or lie down, dream of hell, wake again, repeat. I once went 3 nights without sleep. On the 4th day, I collapsed in the ammo shed. They sent me to the medical unit, diagnosed with combat fatigue, prescribed tranquilizers. I laughed inside. What pill erases the sound of someone being torn open in the dark? I took the pills. They dulled the edges. But they didn't fix anything. Because I didn't need sleep. I needed amnesia. And that was the one thing I couldn't get. I stopped seeing women as images of love. I only saw them the way others did. As bodies pinned down in the dark. Shirts torn open. Voices too broken to scream. When my tour ended, I wasn't relieved. I didn't feel free. I didn't feel proud. I just felt numb. The war outside was over, but another one had just begun. Inside me, no weapons, no platoons, just me, and everything I didn't do. I came back to America in early 1972. On paper, I was a survivor, a discharged soldier, a hero. The airport was packed. People shook my hand. Some girl gave me flowers. Cameras flashed. I don't remember their faces. All I heard was applause, and the screams still echoing in my head. They told me, "Welcome home." I nodded, but deep inside I knew I had never left the war at all. I rented a small apartment, went back to school, picked up part-time work. Everything looked normal from the outside, but I didn't feel a thing. No excitement, no sadness, no joy, just existence, like a machine running on schedule. Old friends came to visit. I barely spoke. They talked. I smiled, or pretended to, for their comfort. Then I'd see them out the door, and sit alone in the dark. I tried dating. It wasn't that nobody wanted to be with me. Women liked the quiet ones, the good listeners, the calm ones. I had all that, but I lacked one thing. I couldn't feel love anymore. There was this one girl, Emily. She was kind, smart, gentle, honest. We went out a few times. She talked about her childhood, her family, her dream of a house by a lake someday. I listened, and truly I was grateful that someone still believed in the future. One night she invited me over. Small apartment, warm yellow light, the smell of something baking in the oven. She held my hand, gently placed it on her chest, and whispered, "I don't want us to just be friends. I froze. My hand trembled. I backed away, knocked over a chair, and I ran. No explanation. I just left her standing there, confused and hurt. I wandered the streets for hours, puked into a trash can. Not from alcohol, from fear. Real primal bone-deep fear. I started to wonder, maybe I'm gay and I never knew? Maybe that's why I feel nothing with women? So I saw a therapist. He asked a lot of questions, and I told him the truth. All of it. The night in Quang Nai. The women pulled away like animals. The blood on their thighs. The crying. The dreams that made me hate my own body. He sat in silence for a long time. Then he said, "You're not incapable of desire. You're a man whose desire has been tied to violence." That hit me like a slap. But also, it was a kind of relief. I understood. It wasn't that I couldn't love, or that I didn't want to. It was that, in my mind, sex no longer meant closeness. It meant screaming. It meant blood. It meant a woman staring up at me, like I was a monster. From that point on, I stopped dating, stopped trying, stopped believing I'd ever get past it. I still talked to women, still smiled, joked, made small talk. But anytime someone got close, I stepped back. Always one step back, and always too far, for anything real to grow. Because I knew, if I let someone in, I'd end up hurting them. Even if I didn't want to, even if I never laid a hand on them. So I chose not to love. Because love, real love, deserves safety. And I couldn't offer that. War doesn't just take lives. It takes away your ability to love. Now I live alone. Small house. Old wooden table. A worn chair by the window. I work. I read. I donate most of my money to charities for Amerasian children in Vietnam. I don't need anyone to know my name. Don't need anyone to remember me. I just want, if there's anyone out there, any woman, who was hurt by someone who looked like me, to know this, at least one of us, never forgave himself. I never got married. Not because I didn't have the chance. Not because I didn't want to. I just couldn't. I didn't want anyone to carry the weight of my life. A life too heavy, too full of shadows. I didn't want a woman to suffer through my silence, my invisible fear, or the distance I couldn't bridge. I never had children. Because I believed, if I couldn't be a whole man, I had no right to be a father. But I didn't live just to breathe. I needed to do something, anything, so I wouldn't feel like I was simply an extension of a past mistake. I began reading about Amerasian children, mixed-race kids born after the war. Some were the result of true relationships. But many were born out of force, of violence, of things that should never have happened. I read reports, watched documentaries, saw the faces of these children, light skin, deep-set eyes. Abandoned, shunned, left without names, without papers. And I saw myself in their eyes. Not literally, but I saw the part of me that needed to do something. If I couldn't undo the past, maybe I could help ease its consequences. In 1976, I started sending money, regularly, to a charity that supported Amerasian children in Vietnam. It wasn't a fortune, just a part of my paycheck. But it was steady. Year after year. No name. No messages. No expectations. I never told anyone. Never called it doing good. Because truthfully, I did it for myself. For the part of me that was rotting with guilt. I never went back to Vietnam. Not because I hated it, but because I was afraid. Afraid to step onto the same soil I once walked, where I stood silently while things happened that no one should allow. Afraid to look anyone in the eye and call myself someone who had come back. I didn't deserve that word. But every night when I closed my eyes, I still saw the green rice fields. Still heard children laughing near the riverbank. Still smelled the smoke from cooking fires, the rain on thatched rooftops. The beautiful memories, so few, were the last thread keeping me from falling completely into the dark. I can't go back to Vietnam. But part of my soul never left. Every year, on the anniversary of the day I left Vietnam, I send an extra donation. No reminders, no acknowledgement, just me, and a handwritten check. I don't know where those kids are now. Maybe grown. Maybe with families of their own. I don't need thanks. Don't need them to know my name. I just hope. If one of them ever thought all American soldiers were monsters, maybe, just maybe, they'll remember there was someone out there who tried to make amends. Even if it was late. Even if it was never enough. I didn't save anyone in that war. I didn't stop anything. I stood there. Silent, frozen, weak. I've carried that my entire life. And I know there will never be a day I'm fully forgiven. But if I'm still breathing, then I'll live as someone who knows he was wrong. And someone who will never let it happen again. The years passed. I've grown old. Gray hair. Failing eyes. I still live alone. Still read the news. Still follow the charities. I'm not strong anymore. But my hands are steady enough to write one more check every year. Someday when I die, no one may remember my name. There won't be a statue. No stories passed down. I don't need any of that. All I hope is that someone somewhere who once had to grow up in the dark because of what others did now lives with even a sliver of light, thanks to money quietly sent by a man who could never forgive himself. I don't need forgiveness. I just need silence. And in that silence, I keep on living. Not as a hero, not as a veteran, just as a man, trying to atone, one quiet step at a time, even if it's far too late. If I could go back to that night, the night behind the tent, the one with the girl, the shadows, the silence, if I could go back and do one thing differently, what would I do? I don't know. Maybe I would have stepped in. Maybe I would have pulled him off her. Maybe I would have screamed, fought, risked court-martial. Maybe I would have shot someone. Or maybe I wouldn't be here talking to you. Maybe I wouldn't have survived. And I ask myself, was it cowardice? Or was it survival? And the truth is, I don't know the difference anymore. I'm not telling this story to be forgiven. I'm not sharing this for sympathy. And I damn sure don't want to be called brave. I'm telling it because I lived too long in silence. Because no one told us that silence could rot your soul faster than any bullet. No one warned us that guilt doesn't die with the war. It grows. It wakes up with you. It eats with you. It watches you when you try to touch someone and feel something other than shame. I've told this story so that maybe, just maybe, someone out there will break their silence before it becomes permanent. And if you've listened this far, I'm grateful. Not because I want your pity, but because you gave space to something no one wants to hear. Something true. Something ugly. Something real. That's what war really leaves behind. Not flags. Not medals. Not speeches. Just memories that won't let go. I'm no longer a soldier. That uniform came off a long time ago. Now I'm just a man, trying to survive his own memories.